let you know that I am going to retire at the end of the year. Are y'all gonna clap for me?
Senate Minority Leader Gloria Butler announces her retirement after a 26-year career under the Gold Dome. Good evening and welcome to Lawmakers. I'm Donna Lowry in Atlanta. The longtime senator sits down with me to talk about her legacy and her upcoming departure. Also, there's bipartisan Senate legislation to cap insulin prices at $35 for state employees. We'll hear from a senator who sponsors that bill. Plus, Medicaid expansion is not likely to take place this year, and we find out why from a physician who is also a longtime lawmaker. But first, we get a wrap-up of the news under the Gold Dome from Capitol correspondent Sarah Callis.
Hi, Donna. Both chambers moved through the rules calendar quickly today to pass as many bills as possible before crossover day.
In the Senate, 22 bills and resolutions were passed. Bills of note, SB 494 would regulate and license hemp wholesalers and distributors, as well as hemp products like edibles containing Delta-9 THC.
This bill will help ensure that hemp products that are on the counter will be safer for people to use.
Yes, ma'am, you are correct.
It was passed 43-5. SB 147 would allow students at public schools to transfer to another school more easily. The student must have permission to leave one school and be accepted at the transfer school.
Who do we believe will use this new program? Maybe it's kids who need a greater academic challenge than what their residency district can provide. It'll be kids who need AP and honors courses that aren't offered in their local school. It's going to be for those kids who need access to top-tier virtual programs that their local district or GAVs cannot provide. And it's also going to help those kids who are bullied and have no other option and cannot thrive in their local school.
The bill also allows the QBE funds to follow the student if the transfer adheres to the new rules, but would not apply if a student transfers to a private school. The bill would also not apply for students who want to transfer solely for athletic participation reasons. The bill passed 38-14. One of the more controversial issues of the day was whether the state's constitution should be amended to allow various forms of gambling. SR 579 would allow voters to decide.
Back on February 1st, we passed the enabling legislation to allow the state of Georgia to offer online sports betting. And part of that debate was whether or not it should have a constitutional amendment. And I've laid out my arguments then where I think it's very clear in our Constitution that we need to do this. And I think it's the politically appropriate thing to do when you make this type of a major policy shift in your state, to let the people vote, let them weigh in on it. So this is the constitutional amendment that bill that we passed. Its effective date is upon the passage of a constitutional amendment and its ratification by the voters.
The bill that is attached to this resolution would provide 80% of the gambling proceeds to education, namely pre-K funding and after that, the Hope Scholarship. But concerns about problem gambling were noted by opponents.
The American Psychological Association talks about the effects of gambling on the brain and its vulnerability and addiction to people. Most of that addiction is for young people under the age of 30. That's where we're seeing this come. They've been raised in areas in which they've had access to a lot of video games, and that's where they're pushing this. But the addiction is a real addiction. Is addiction like drugs or alcohol, because it affects the dopamine and the other parts, the chemical parts of the body that are there.
The resolution was passed 41-12, and a special retirement was announced today. This time, it was the Senate Minority Leader Gloria Butler.
I am just coming to let you know that I am going to retire at the end of the year. Are y'all gonna clap for me?
Butler has been in the Senate since 1998 and was the first black woman caucus leader to be elected under the Gold Dome.
I've had an extraordinary journey at this Capitol. Didn't have a clue that I would stay more than the designated 10 years I gave myself. Instead, I'm working on 26. But there's a piece coming out tonight on Lawmakers, and I didn't want those of you that don't already know, didn't want you to be surprised to hear it from TV and not from me.
In the House, over a dozen bills today. One bill seeks to enforce a minimum age of 21 to buy cannabis products.
I have a high school with 4,000 kids, and these products are stronger than what we've laid out as a legislature, available for purchase on the corner at the gas station.
House Bill 974 would allow scanned ballots without voters' names to be uploaded to the Secretary of State's website. The bill is designed to improve transparency in elections by allowing anyone to view the ballots. The bill passed unanimously. After lunch, representatives took up hospital certificates of need. House Bill 1339 eases requirements for medical facilities in rural areas to expand or build new locations.
I appreciate its focus on struggling rural healthcare systems, and I appreciate its goal to streamline the CON process, particularly with respect to expanding psychiatric and OB services. I think this piece of legislation shows that this body as a whole prioritizes increasing care access in the state of Georgia.
The bill passed with only one no vote, but some Democrats say improvement is still needed. Members also debated HB 1182, which revises low-income housing tax credits. It reduces the credits that developers can receive for building low-income housing, unless the project meets certain criteria. Supporters say this change saves money, but opponents say it could discourage new affordable housing builds.
We have just moved away from humanity. And I'm going to tell you, when we lose humanity, we go into a place that is scary.
The bill passed 104 to 61 in a mostly party-line vote.
Lawmakers will return to the Capitol on Thursday for crossover day, the last day when bills can move from one chamber to the other. That's all for my Capitol report. Donna, back to you.
Thanks, Sarah, for that report. As you heard, Senate Minority Leader Gloria Butler announced her retirement. She won her first election in 1998. Leader Butler is the first black woman to lead the Senate caucus in the state of Georgia's Senate. I spent time talking to her about her years as a lawmaker, including coming into the Gold Dome as a Democrat when Democrats controlled the legislature before things changed.
Well, when you come in the majority, it's a huge difference. It's no fun being in the minority because you can't get the things done that you want to get done when you're in the minority. You can work hard at it, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get a bill passed, that you're going to get your study committee, that you're going to get money in the budget. It doesn't mean any of that when you're working hard, but when you're in the majority, you can get all of those things done.
Talk about that change from the majority to minority. What were those years like?
Well, first of all, we didn't lose because of elections. We lost the majority because there were members that ran off to the other party. They had a runoff after the runoff. They ran off to the majority, made the Republican Party the majority rather than the Democrat Party. We had 4 members that switched. And that immediately things changed in our caucus. We started having those meetings, getting together more, because we had more work to do. When you're in the minority, you have a lot of work to do. It's not that you're just in the minority and you just take everything that's dished out to you. You have to work against it. You have to be more visible. You have to make more speeches. You have to, like I said earlier, you have to work harder at getting your bills passed, getting more money in the budget. It's hard work.
You have to work harder, and you have to make sure your voice is heard. Mm-hmm. Talk about what that process is like. You know, you've got to be united also.
Exactly. You got to make friends with the party across the aisle. You have to have friends on the floor. You got to have friends off the floor, because you need people to bring information to you. You need people to support you. The ones on the floor across the aisle, you need their vote. You need their help in committees, on the floor. Even when you have your committee dinners and you get together and form those relationships, that's important too. I always said to myself first, don't miss your committee dinners, because that's when you build your relationships with other members. And so I've always said that to my members as well, because it's so important to build those relationships.
We have people who come on Lawmakers, and I'll have viewers say, but you've got two people on either side of the aisle, and they seem to get along. And that seems to surprise people. But it shouldn't, huh?
It should not, because you need those relationships. And you find that you have so much in common. You're down here for the same reason, and that's to work for the people back home. You'll hear that all the time. And each of us, that's what we're here for, to make a difference in those people's lives. Not just here. We're not here for ourselves. And I say it all the time, 3/4, or even more than that, of the things that I've done have not been for me. They don't benefit me. They benefit those people that can't do things for themselves.
What are your fondest memories from over the years?
You know, I think about that all the time, but I don't know what my fondest memories are. I have so many. And I think it's making a difference in people's lives, such as one of the first bills that I passed was an asthma bill. It was about an asthma inhaler. And it was because something happened to me where I had to go and get my inhaler refilled. And the pharmacist said, you can't get this done today because you have 2 more days. 2 more days for what? He said, you have 200 metered puffs, and that should last you for 30 days. And I said, if you tell the pharmacist, it was the young lady that was helping me, you tell the pharmacist, if they can control the weather the way they're trying to control my health, then I will agree with that. But since they can't do that, then I need to have this filled right away. Well, they didn't fill it for 2 days. I had to go back and get it refilled because the insurance company did not want to pay for it twice in 1 month, because that would have made less than 30 days that I was wanting to get it refilled.
So you came up with a bill?
I came up with the bill and changed it.
So that people can go when they need it filled?
Exactly. They can go when they need it, even if they have 5 more days left in the inhaler. You don't want to wait until the last minute to get it. You want it refilled today when you have time to do it.
Anything you wish you could have done that you didn't get a chance to do, or are you feeling pretty good going into this?
I feel pretty good. There's legislation I wish I could have passed, but, you know, you can be in the majority and not pass your legislation. I don't feel regretful about anything. It's been quite a journey for me, especially since this is not something that I aspired to do. I did not wake up one day and decide to change my life, because it did change my life.
In what way?
From having a 9-to-5 job to having a job that never ends. This never ends. I mean, every minute there's something to do. There are people to see. There are places to go. I travel. And, you know, a long time ago, they used to call them junkets. Mine has never been a junket. It was always a lot of work to do. And I've always been, the organizations that I belong to, I've always been on the board. Like, how did I get on the board?
What does it mean to you that the historical marker that you're leaving as the first black woman to be in your position?
Well, I hope that others will follow. It means a lot to me because, first of all, I did not expect it. And to be the first that becoming the minority leader of the caucus has meant a lot. It seems sometimes as if it was a tremendous burden, but once you get involved in it and do the work, you find that it's not a burden, it's really a privilege and a pleasure to have been able to do this. And that reminds me of something that my pastor said on Sunday. It's a blessing to be a blessing to others. And that explains it and make you feel it. I mean, it's just a blessing. It's been a blessing to be able to be in this position and make a difference.
Leader Butler says before she leaves, she hopes to pass legislation for a study committee on lowering the age for getting tested for colon cancer from 50 to 45 years old. Other than that, she plans to just relax. We wish her well. Now, coming up, a move to lower the cost of insulin for teachers and other state workers.
Lawmakers is made possible by Georgia Farm Bureau. With over 80 years of helping everyone understand the importance of agriculture in our state. After all, ag is Georgia's #1 industry. Food and fiber production represents over $74 billion in output of Georgia's strong economy. The Georgia Farm Bureau legislative team works to represent producers across Georgia at the state capitol during the session and year-round. Georgia Farm Bureau, the voice of Georgia farmers.
People put their faith in PBS because they know that it is constantly delivering quality. It covers the whole of the United States. It's a free and independent media.
We go where the viewers are.
What are the conversations that are happening right now?
We feel that civil discourse is a civic responsibility.
What we do is authentic reporting that people can trust.
We give time so you can hear voices on all sides of an issue.
This is the place that people turn to for stories that matter.
And they know that when they walk away, they will have learned something about the world around them.
That's why this makes PBS important for daily life and, in the end, our world.
Thank you for joining us.
Community. Learning, working, playing, celebrating, doing life is always better together. At GPB, we aim to provide you with the tools to be able to do life together well. Our mission to educate, inform, and entertain inspires everything from our wide range of programming to our stimulating radio conversations to our fun in-person events. We've got something for everyone. Visit gpb.org/community to learn more about our upcoming events.
Welcome back to Lawmakers. I'm Donna Lowry. The Centers for Disease Control reports that approximately 1 million people in Georgia have been diagnosed with diabetes, and another 230,000 are unaware that they have it. I spoke earlier today to Democratic Senator Nikki Merritt about her bipartisan bill to put a $35 cap on the cost of insulin for state workers.
I come from an insulin-dependent family myself. My grandmother, the whole time I've ever known her, was taking shots, insulin shots. As inspiration from Senator Warnock, when he passed his bill that would put the insulin cap on for those on Medicaid, that became kind of that inspired me and said, hey, well, let's try to extend this a little more to more people so more people can take advantage of an insulin cost cap. So that's kind of where it came from. Senator Warnock kind of inspired me, and me being inspired from my family and wanting to do what I can to make sure we're covering more Georgians. You know, we can't do it for all Georgians right now unless we spend Medicaid, but this is just a step so that we can get more people covered. So this is for state employees. So it's the insulin cap copay for state employees. Roughly, well, I would say this. There are over 600,000 people on the state health benefit plan right now. 6% of the U.S. population is diabetic. This bill will cover, of that 600,000 over 600,000, this would cover 38,000 employees. So 38,000 employees that are currently insulin dependent, they could take advantage of this. So we're talking state employees like our teachers, retired teachers, retired state employees, public school employees and their dependents. So really expanding that cost to them, that low insulin cost to them. And the key about this is, I know there's been in the news, of drug companies, they have tried to match the 35 as well. That is true, but remember, they are private companies. They can raise that cost at any time. With our insulin cap bill, our employees will never have to worry about that cost of insulin going up. They will still get capped at the 35 copay.
Senator Merritt has support for her bill from the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, Republican Senator Ben Watson. I talked to Watson today about the insulin cap bill and the backlog in Medicaid renewals.
As a physician, a primary care physician, I take care of a lot of diabetics, and probably 25% of those diabetics are on insulin. So I see that firsthand. Many of them struggle with getting insulin, whether insurance covers it or not, whether it's branded or generic. So I think that's certainly a very important issue. It's a lifeline. For those with type 1 diabetes, they will not live without insulin. So that's very important to have insurance coverage. And the bill that we've had in the Senate, sponsored by Senator Nikki Merritt, addresses that partly, but is also not just a state issue, it's been a federal issue that our U.S. senators have also been trying to address.
Yeah, let's talk about what we seem to see is a growth in the number of people who find themselves needing insulin. Is that true?
Well, it is that diabetes is a more frequent diagnosis, and because we have more people with diabetes living longer, living with diabetes, then we're having people, that percentage is still about the same, but you have an increased number of people with diabetes, so therefore more insulin is needed.
So this insulin cap means a lot to you. You think it's important for Georgians?
I think it's important for Georgians and certainly for the U.S. There's a dire need for that.
And it would apply to state employees?
It would.
Yeah. Let's talk about another issue, and that is dealing with Medicaid and the waivers that we've seen and those kind of things. Right now, there's a backlog of sorts. Tell us about that.
Well, during the pandemic, 3 years, there was no redetermination. In other words, a Medicaid patient must sign up every year to see if they are still eligible for Medicaid. And that's what happened. So we've been given a year by CMS, or the federal folks who have control over Medicaid, to get them redetermined. And that's a large number of people in that, and they will be either staying on Medicaid or they will roll off to another program. So it puts a bit of a different perspective when it comes to that. Because what's happened is that when I first came in five years ago as chair of Health and Human Services, Governor Kemp came in at the same time, and that's when we did the waivers. So we did 1332, which puts people in the exchange, and then we did the 1115, which is 100% on down to the federal poverty level. And 100% is about $14,500 of annual salary for a single person. But what's happened is that we have 730,000 new people in what we call access, and that's 100% up to 138%. That was a large gap in there. So we have a large number enrolled in that, and they have insurance. They don't have Medicaid. So insurance pays hospitals and providers 100% plus 20 or 30%. So they are actually able to make a profit and able to keep the hospitals open and so forth. So that's a large number. It's just those people that are 100% on down in that redetermination. Now, by census, it's about 200,000 people. So that's a lot of people, but DCH, the Department of Community Health, which administers from a state perspective Medicaid, about 136,000 people of those 200,000 actually have jobs and insurance with employers, which is what you want. So the issue that the House has been discussing and that we'll probably discuss off session is the Arkansas model, which Arkansas has been a mature model because they've been in the Arkansas Medicaid waiver program, and they have insurance also. But interestingly, they have about 200,000 people that are just not signed up. They have not bothered to sign up. And Arkansas is about half the size of the state of Georgia. So we have probably about 70,000 people who are not signed up. So it's really a very complicated issue, and then you throw in there the 90-10 split versus the 60-40 split. What the governor has finally come to conclusion is that we probably need to let this mature a little bit more in the state of Georgia. And as a matter of fact, he has sued CMS to allow us to not ask to be reevaluated from a waiver standpoint, to give us another year for that. And that's because we actually had to sue the federal government, and we won heartily when it came to allowing us to do the waivers as we have done. So I think we'll continue to address this issue. The bottom line is we need everybody covered by, hopefully, insurance, not necessarily by Medicaid, but if we can get everybody covered by insurance, that would be a good thing for the state of Georgia.
Arkansas uses Medicaid expansion money to buy private insurance. Chairman Watson says Georgia is looking to wait another year to give more time to the state's current plans before doing anything more. And finally, the wine industry brings in an estimated $81 million to Georgia's economy. Senate Majority Leader Steve Gooch introduced a resolution this week honoring Georgia wineries.
All of these vineyard growers, these wineries throughout Georgia, there's over 100 of them today in Georgia. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in our state. They're hiring thousands, tens of thousands of employees, and they are bringing millions and millions and millions of tax dollars to our state capital to help run the state government, whether that's for public safety, education, mental health expenses, what have you. We appreciate your investment into our state. You know, it wasn't but just about 2 decades ago that the Farm Wineries Act was passed in this very chamber, in the Senate and the House, that helped put all of this on the map for Georgia. And in the last 22 or 23 years since that bill passed, we have seen huge benefits throughout the entire state, but especially up in North Georgia, where a lot of these wineries are located. You can come to my district 51 all through Lumpkin, Dawson, White, Union, Fannin, Gilmer, and Pickens, and throughout the rest of Northwest and Northeast Georgia, and you will find every week and every weekend hundreds and thousands of visitors coming up from Atlanta to enjoy not only the views and the vistas, but also the great food and, of course, the drink that they provide to their guests, especially the wedding venues that you have seen crop up as a result of this industry.
Throughout the month of March, Georgia wineries are offering discounts and wine tasting adventures you might want to check out. That does it for Lawmakers Today. Join us on Thursday for a 1-hour crossover day special. We'll have the latest on bills under consideration that night, plus expert analysis from political insiders. Have a good night.
People put their faith in PBS because they know that it is constantly delivering quality. It covers the whole of the United States. It's a free and independent media.
We go where the viewers are.
What are the conversations that are happening right now?
We feel that civil discourse is a civic responsibility.
What we do is authentic reporting that people can trust.
We give time so you can hear voices on all sides of an issue.
This is the place that people turn to for stories that matter.
And they know that when they walk away, they will have learned something about the world around them.
That's why this makes PBS important for daily life and, in the end, our world.
Thank you for joining us.
Community. Learning, working, playing, celebrating, doing life is always better together. At GPB, we aim to provide you with the tools to be able to do life together well. Our mission to educate, inform, and entertain inspires everything from our wide range of programming to our stimulating radio conversations to our fun in-person events. We've got something for everyone. Visit gpb.org/community to learn more about our upcoming events.